because of birthday, and we treat the child according to what they're doing and not what their birthday is. The other thing that I want to remind you as you're listening is about the impact on the child of kindergarten and elementary. If you can think back to your kindergarten and elementary experience, a lot of the things that you learned at a young age, like songs, like the words from children's books, fairy tales, and the rhymes, Mother Goose, that your parents read to you, jingles, those things stay in your head forever. I mean, I can rattle off all these jingles that I learned when I was young. At an elementary age, our students at our elementary school are doing math facts in their head at school and math facts in their head at home. The earlier that type of thing gets started, math facts in your head at school, math facts in your head at home, the more it's going to be ingrained in your head when you get into high school, college, and into the workforce. So the impact of kindergarten and elementary years, I would say, those are some of the most important years in a child's education. So success and scholarships in college. I just gave you examples of parents who have said that their children have had success in college. And I know that there's a tuition that accompanies our program, but if you're looking at your finances from a lifelong perspective and not just next year or the year after, and you're thinking about investing in your child's education, you can reap amazing returns from the investments during these crucial years, kindergarten and early elementary. Our teachers are doing what my parents did, which is giving us access to advanced curriculum and a lot of individual attention at a young age. And I just think back to my experience. My parents had very limited resources, and the tuition they were paying back then, the schools that my siblings and I got to go to because they helped us get in, those schools cost $60,000 a year right now. And we all got extensive scholarships. If we had gotten a full scholarship, $60,000 a year times 4 years, $250,000 per child. So imagine if your child has an academic full scholarship or has some other strengths that they can get a full ride based on academics and sports or academics and some other talent. The investment that you're making now, I think, is going to pay off in the future in scholarships. There's one unique option that I haven't heard about at other schools that we have, and that is that a child can pursue their kindergarten studies either in our 3 to 6-year-old classrooms, the preschool classroom that they're already in, or in our elementary classroom. Both are mixed age settings. If they pursue their kindergarten studies in the preschool classroom, in a mixed age environment, they're going to be the oldest child, and they can really do a lot with leadership and setting example and teaching other children, which can be very beneficial to them. If they do their kindergarten studies in our private elementary setting, they will be one of the younger children, but there they can challenge from watching other students, from watching more advanced activities that other students are doing. So our teachers might have a very strong opinion on whether your child would do better in the 3 to 6-year-old classroom or the elementary classroom. And then they're going to give you that strong opinion. But they may have no opinion. Many times our teachers have had no opinion. They say, hey, your child's going to do well if they stay in the 3 to 6-year-old classroom, and they're going to do well if they go into the elementary classroom. So in the system today in our country where there's too much regimentation and too much one-size-fits-all teaching, here we're giving you options, or at least we may be able to give you an option. And I think you guys having options for your children's education is a great thing. I think it's very important that our staff knows your children. Our elementary teachers know our toddlers, our toddler teachers know our elementary children. So if your child goes to our kindergarten and our elementary program, the teachers already know your child, and there's going to be momentum going into the year. You're not going to have to start fresh, and there's not going to be any surprise because you guys know our staff. I hear stories about other schools that have ratios of 21 or 23 to 1 child, and I don't know how how they're able to get things done, and our ratios are much better than that. So higher standards. I think our school has very high standards, and I hear stories about schools where the kindergarten year, the standard is at the end of the year knowing A to Z and 1 to 10. I've heard stories about that this year where children have left our school and they've been at very advanced doing multiplication, and now they're going back to very simple concepts. But at our school, even in the preschool, we have 4-year-olds doing 4-digit addition and subtraction. We have 5-year-olds, young 5-year-olds doing multiplication. So you know our standards are very high, and that carries into our kindergarten and elementary. I just wanted to point out in the handout that the staff created, this handout, the first 3 bullets are very important. One is that these teachers are spending a lot of time teaching your children about the ability to concentrate for long periods of time. That's very important. I want to give you one example. We had some students who wanted to work on their numbers from 1 to 100. We call it the hundreds board. They brought the work out in the morning. It was 2 students that wanted to work together. At snack time, or I'm sorry, at playground time, the first playground time of the morning, they said to the teacher, "Can we leave this out so that we can come back and work on it?" The teacher said yes. Then at lunch, they said, "Can we leave this out? We're still working on it. We want to work on it again." The teacher said yes. I saw the children working on it all day. So being able to concentrate for long periods of time, I don't think at some other schools they'd be able to do that. And imagine how great it is for that child to have that ability to work for such a long period of time, to work toward mastery of that concept. I think that's really important, a really important thing that our teachers are providing. Another thing, the second bullet talks about how they have practiced patience when working with materials that require them to follow a lengthy sequence and complete a cycle of challenging work. That's really important, practicing patience. We have to remember that a child's learning is different from an adult's. A child's learning is self-directed. Their brain is always telling them to learn more so that they can develop mentally into adults. I always say that a challenged child is a happy child. So practicing patience so that they can complete a cycle of challenging work, that's really important. And the last thing is, the third bullet says, they have gained problem-solving skills from experiencing situations that allow them to resolve a situation independently. One of the problems in our workforce, our adult workforce today, is that people are having issues with problem-solving skills, and I think we're giving that as a staff to your children. So thank you so much for listening to those points, and I would like to turn it over to the staff, and we can start the rest of the presentation. And there's so much more I can tell you all, so anybody that wants to stay after for questions, please feel free to stay as long as you want. Thanks. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann Orcutt, and I work with Mrs. Shaw. We're both in the pre-K room, and we've been working together about 20 years. And what leads me to, mine's more about a personal experience with my own children instead of working here, but what led me to teach Montessori. Both my children went to a different Montessori school, and I had my son there starting at 3. Really my only intention was to put him there for preschool, but after seeing what he was capable of doing at the age of 4, I really wanted to keep him here, not here, at Montessori school for kindergarten, and I had to give my husband a sales pitch because I knew he wasn't going to really go for it since we had a really good elementary school for my children, and it was a block from our house, and it was free. So I really had to convince him that I'd just let me have 1 year, just 1 year of kindergarten for him. And so he went for it, and he said, it's only 1 year. And I said, all right, that's fair, 1 year. So he stayed that 1 year, and my husband saw all that he was capable of doing at the age of 5, that I didn't need to sell him on first grade. And I didn't even have to talk about it when my daughter came up. So it was just an awesome experience for my children. They were doing things that they weren't getting in the public school. Now, eventually they went into the public school, and they just were ahead of the game that the only thing they really needed to worry about their first year in public was acclimating to the different rules, different ways of doing things, and a larger group. But I really believe 0 through 6 are your most important years with your children. And as Mr. Vesterman was saying, that it's an investment. And it's an investment that, to me, I now see. My son is 29, and both he and my daughter's 26, both what they're doing now in their careers. So I am a strong believer that 0 through 6, really, those are the time to invest your time with your children's education. It'll pay off. We have a child here. We also had a sister, Luke, and he is 5, so he's pre-K, and he is now doing multiplication. So he's going to, Mrs. Shaw with Luke are going to go ahead and show you the multiplication board.
Okay, you come ready. So, as an introduced, I'm Manisha Shah, and I'm co-teacher with Anne in our pre-K1 classroom. Our classroom is over there. And as Mr. Westerman said, that Montessori is, Luke, you can start because we will run out of time. We have so many presenters, so I'm also going fast like Mr. Westerman. Montessori classroom is always a multi-age classroom. Each child is given an individual lesson according to his ability and needs. And when they are in their first year, right now I will talk about math because he's presenting math presentation. So then they start learning numbers 1 to 10, 11 to 20, then they progress to 100 board, and then the second year they start addition, subtraction, they keep going on, and Luke, he's doing multiplication, which I don't think public school they start before the 3rd grade, and he's just 5 and he's not in kindergarten classroom also. The way Montessori math works, they use the concrete materials, so he's using these red beads to do the multiplication table of 2, and instead of memorizing the table, which we used to do when we learned in our time, he is using these concrete materials, so he's making sets of 2. 2 times 2, 2 times 3, and he's adding them together, so he's using addition facts to make the table of 2, and then he keeps writing on this paper. So today he will not have time to do the whole presentation, but this writing is from this morning while he worked on this table. So then he writes the table here. So he will keep working on this, and when he is comfortable, he will not need these concrete materials anymore. He can do in his head 2 times 2, 2 times 3 like that. So, Luke, are you going to?
And then he's also able, to check his work. After he's finished one of, 2 tables, then he can check his work.
Let's read this.
2 times 1 equals 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. 2 times 3 equals 6. 2 times 4 equals 8. 2 times 5 equals 10.
Okay, honey, we will stop here because we have all these presenters, but so you can look at this. He's writing, and this he did this morning, the whole table. Good job, so proud of you.
And he's gone beyond this, but he was just going to show this as an example. Isn't that awesome?
You did a great job. My name is Rachel Ames, and Kelly Cannon and I work together in this class here. It's another same age group as they work with, another pre-K primary class. These classes are built, like Mr. Vesterman said, where they can go through kindergarten. So Chase here is 5, and so he next year would be considered his kindergarten year. He's going to show you in just a minute the North America map. We're showing a cultural work. That's one of the areas that we work on in the classroom. So when we start teaching cultural, we start with the basic concept of land and water, and then we go on to the concept of continents and oceans. And then we go on to a world map where they learn the names of the continents and where they are. And then we go on to each continent and the countries within them. So he has mastered up until, well, he's actually past this now, but this is one of the ones that he's made. The children actually make their own after each one, where they'll make their own, they'll pinprick them out, write the names of them, and build their own. This is another child that did it this week, the South America map. So I'm going to let him show this to you. He's going to name the countries to you, and then I'm going to tell you a couple other things real quick. All right, you ready?
What country is this
Canada,
one? This is
United States, Mexico, Guatemala,
good job.
Belize,
Slow down. Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay. And
Honduras,
El Salvador.
El Salvador.
El Salvador,
Good job. This is
Nicaragua,
awesome.
Costa Rica,
And
Panama,
got it.
Cuba,
Cuba.
Haiti,
Last one.
Dominican Republic,
And then
Greenland,
Greenland and
Alaska.
Alaska.
Good job,
Good
Chase.
stuff.
So, I've worked in Montessori since I got out of high school, and I can tell you that the kindergarten year is really, truly very important. To me, it's one of the most important years for them. I always explain it as it's like the last piece of a puzzle going in, or reading the last chapter of a book. It's a lot of times where all the things that they've worked on up until now come together for them. You've invested a lot of money up until this point. The children have invested a lot of time, and that year is just really solidifies everything that they've learned. They build a lot of confidence during that year. Also, the teachers all here know right where your child is, so they can pick up and continue your child moving forward. Whereas moving to another school, they start back at the very beginning learning them. Also, I mean, it really is true that the public school kindergartners do have to teach to children like they've never been in school before, because there are children who have never been in school before in there. So they do go back to red, yellow, blue, ABC, 1, 2, 3. And a lot of times by the time they get, by the end of kindergarten, they never get to the things that they're doing here. So a lot of times, if they haven't gotten far enough in this program, they lose all the things. They forget a lot of the things that they have learned up to now. Whereas another year or two, it's amazing that it solidifies it in their mind and they have it for the rest of their life. So it does make a huge difference. I've seen it with my son. I changed schools at the time that he was going into kindergarten. So he actually went to public school kindergarten, and he regressed a lot. And it was really sad, obviously, since I work in Montessori, that he didn't continue, because he did. I mean, now he's just learning the continents instead of the things that Chase just presented. So it does make a big difference, and I think the amount of money and time that you put into it now is later really paid off in life, and they learn a lot. Thank you.
So my presenter not feeling it. That's okay.
I have no contact.
Not feeling it? Okay.
Wanna try,
I
Neil?
hunch that this might happen, and he really wanted to hear it.
Okay.
So I filmed it. So I'm not gonna hold it. I mean, it's small, but you can hear it. Okay. So there's two separate ones because, so like she said, with these, you start somewhere. So language, we start with sounds. We do the movable alphabet where they're building short vowel sounds, long vowel sounds, and then starting sentence structure. Neil just turned 4 in November, and so next year will technically be his pre-K year. So he read these sentences this morning, and he read me this book. So here's the first part. Now start over, please.
I am swimming. I am 4. I like
One line up.
I have a
Turn the volume up.
Okay, so these books are part of a set that start with, they're actually considered kinder books. So this is a K2-1. So he started with K1-1 and it goes all the way through K1-6 and then K2-1. And he's actually on the K2-5s right now. So we went with this one just in case it came up here, so we did. But anyway, so that's kind of our language, the progression of it. And we have kids that are still on the K1-1, and I have 2 others that are right on the same level as him too. So there's a wide variety, and they're all about the same age. They're all 3 and 4.
Good job, Neil.
Hello, I'm Kim Smith and I'm the elementary teacher. Upstairs, everyone wants to come upstairs. Okay, come join us if you want to make that track. But I brought one of our fabulous students, Maggie Coons, with me here tonight. And we are going to do language. So as Miss Sarah was saying, we all start, with sandpaper letters, and they move on to words, and they move on to